Good morning, everyone. Today we are going to start with the second chapter of economics, sectors of Indian economy. And in today's module, we are going to discuss the following topics: sectors of economic activities, that is primary, secondary, and tertiary, and interdependence of primary, secondary, and tertiary sectors on each other. Okay, so now let's start with the topic. So, what is economic activity? Economic activity is the activity of making, providing, purchasing, or selling goods or services. Any action that involves producing, distributing, or consuming products or services is an economic activity. Economic activity exists at all levels within a society. Additionally, any activities involving money or the exchange of products or services are economic activity. If I put it in a simple words, for any work or any service, okay, we do and we get money in returns, that is an economic activity. For instance, running a small business is a great example of economic activity. Employees working in a factory and receiving wages are performing economic activity. Their employers are also economically active because they pay the workers and make and sell goods. Okay, now classification of economic activities. Now around us, if we see, there are thousands and thousands of economic activities are going on. To make things easier, we have grouped them into three different categories, and these categories are: first, primary sector activities; secondary sector activities; and tertiary sector activities. Now let's see separately what each activity means. First is primary sector activities. When we produce a good by exploiting natural resources, it is an activity of primary sector. For example, agriculture. For growing crops, we depend on land, water, and climate condition of a place. Fish farming. For fish farming, we depend on water, which is a natural resource. Dairy, we are dependent on biological process of animals and availability of fodder, etc. And other economic activities like mining and lumbering, that is forestry, also comes in the primary sector. For both mining, we depend on land, and for lumbering, we depend on forest. Okay, now next question is, why such activities are called primary activities? In primary sector of economy, activities are undertaken by directly using natural resources. Agriculture, mining, fishing, forestry, dairy, etc. are examples of this sector. It is called primary sector because it forms the base for all other products. Means directly or indirectly, all other sectors, all other activities, they depend on primary sector activities. Okay, this is clear. Now let's move to secondary sector. The secondary sector covers activity in which natural products are changed into other forms through ways of manufacturing that we associate with industrial activities. For example, to manufacture a cotton fabric from cotton, first we depend on cotton, which is a natural product. Then we process and manufacture them into yarns in factories, and that we further process and make a fabric which is ready to be sold in the market. Similarly, we have other manufacturing activities like making scooties and other electronic gadgets, all come in the secondary sector activities, because most of the things are manufactured in the industry. It is also called as industrial sector. Even the construction also comes in the secondary sector, because in construction also we are making something, we are making a building. Then we come to service sector or tertiary sector, both are same. The sector of the economy that provides services rather than products. Example, storage, communication, banking and trade, etc. is called service sector. Also includes some essential services that may not directly help in production. So transportation, communication and banking. They are all part of tertiary sector or service sector. And other important activities are like doctors, they are also giving us the services, teachers, and even the milkman who is delivering milk in your house is doing you a service. And you can think of so many people, for example maids, those who are coming in your house doing your household work, they are also giving you a service. Even the security guard which is outside the societies, at the gates, they are also doing a service. So all this come under the service sector or tertiary sector. Okay, now next, how are the tertiary sector activities different from others? Okay, tertiary sector activities or service sector is different from primary and secondary sector. How? These are the activities that help in the development of primary and secondary sector activities. These activities do not produce goods, but they are an aid or support for the production. For example, goods goods are produced in the primary and secondary sector would need to be transported by trucks or trains and then sold in wholesale or retail shop. We may need to take loan from banks to help production and trade. Okay, so banking, transportation, they are all tertiary sector activities which help primary and secondary sector activities for their development. Now, economic activities, though grouped into different categories, they are highly interdependent, or you can say they are dependent on each other. For example, primary activities are dependent on secondary activities, and secondary activities are dependent on primary activities. Then primary activities also depend on tertiary activities, and tertiary activities depend on primary activities. Similarly, secondary sector activities depend on tertiary sector, and tertiary sector activities depend on primary sector. Now, as some of the students have some doubts, I have tried to explain it further by adding some more information. Okay, so first of all, primary sector. Primary sector for growing crops. Okay, farmers need fertilizers, machinery, pesticides, etc., which are product of secondary sector. Okay, so this shows the primary sector activity dependence on secondary sector. Then for transporting their goods to market, primary sector needs help of tertiary sector. So this is an example where primary sector depends on tertiary sector. Here it is in this slide we are trying to show how the primary sector depends on secondary and tertiary sector. Now next we come to secondary sector. Agro-based industries. Agro-based industries means those who are dependent on agriculture for their raw material. Agro-based industries depend for raw material on primary sector. So it shows dependence of secondary sector on primary sector. And then for transporting their goods to market, okay, secondary sector needs help of tertiary sector. So here secondary sector activities, secondary sector is dependent on tertiary sector. Similarly, the way primary sector is dependent on tertiary sector. Okay, third we come to tertiary sector. Tertiary sector provides storage facilities which primary sector uses and pay for their services. So for the money, for the to earn income, tertiary sector depend on primary sector. Similarly, banks, which are a part of tertiary sector or service sector, gives loan to secondary sector to start their business. People pay back loan amount and interest, which is the income of the bank. So for their earning, tertiary sector depends on the secondary sector. So this is an example where tertiary sector depends on primary and secondary sector. Okay, and this shows that all the three sectors are highly interdependent on each other. Okay, I hope the topic is clear to you now. Thank you. Okay, if you still have any doubt, you can ask me through WhatsApp. Thank you.